There's a really weird mystery hidden within Super Mario Galaxy. Not inside the game itself, but instead within its logo. It's this part here, the word Galaxy. Look carefully at the background and you'll see this picture of a star field slowly scrolling by. Where did that image come from? If you search Google for Starfield or space, you'll find tens of thousands of pictures. Tracking down the exact image that Nintendo used seems impossible, doesn't it? Well, what if I told you that just last week the answer was finally uncovered? Let me introduce you to Captain Byte. You might know him from his Twitter username, Comet Medal. He spends hours every week digging through the files of Mario Galaxy and tweeting all of the interesting things that he finds. But to me, there's none more interesting than this one. Let me tell you the story of how Mario Galaxy's biggest mystery was solved 14 years after the game came out.
I've always been super interested in astronomy. From a very, very young age, it was one of my first ever favorite things, and I remember at around ages 8 to 11, my mom would often brag about me having enough astronomy knowledge to quote-unquote throw a teacher under the bus. And so with that knowledge and that love of astronomy and the galaxies and the stars and stuff, I just absolutely fell in love with Super Mario Galaxy.
Now, every time you turn on your Wii and open Super Mario Galaxy, the very first thing you see is this logo. And even to a young Captain Byte, this starfield was pretty intriguing.
For the longest time, ever since I was a kid, I knew I recognized that image in the logo. I knew it was of Andromeda.
Now, for those like me who aren't so up on our astronomy, this is Andromeda Galaxy. Even if you didn't know that's what it's called, again, I did not, you'll probably still recognize it. It's one of the most iconic features of the night sky. And so, young Captain Byte did indeed recognize the galaxy from the image. And at the time, that answered all of his questions. But the much harder mystery to solve is where this one particular image came from. Did someone at Nintendo get a camera and a telescope and take a picture of this galaxy just to put it into the game? Or was this photo taken by someone completely different, someone who had nothing to do with Nintendo? That is a very difficult question to answer. So, fast forward to 2020, when Captain Byte was, as he often is, digging up bits and pieces relating to Mario Galaxy. And that's when he stumbled upon a folder of images and logos from E3 2007. And inside that folder was a much higher resolution image of Super Mario Galaxy's logo than he'd ever seen before. And when he zoomed into the image, he started noticing some weird things.
When I got looking at the logo up close, I started noticing little seams and strange cuts in the background that make up the galaxy part of the logo. And it kind of reminded me of how some space telescopes and whatnot will take pictures of areas in the sky, and then folks at NASA and whatnot will piece the parts together to make one big image. And so I started thinking, is there an image or multiple images that make up this background? It couldn't be a coincidence based on the cuts and seams that seem to make up several different images spliced into one image.
And so, Byte decided to try and track down the origin of this image, or perhaps images. He took to Google, as one does, and used the filter tools so that the images that would appear were from before June 29th, 2007, which is when this logo was created. And that is when he stumbled upon one particular photograph. It was taken by Robert Gendler, an American astrophysicist, and it looks like this. Straight away, Byte realised just how similar this image was to the one from Galaxy's logo. He laid the two images on top of each other and compared various features from the two images. All of them seemed to match. After yet more comparisons, Byte was satisfied. This had to be the image from the logo. He'd done it. He had solved this great mystery. And so he tweeted it to the world, as usual, but unlike usual, this tweet reached a much larger audience. Tens of thousands saw the tweet, and it even made it onto nintendolife.com. This is also where I come into the story. I saw the tweet, I thought it was cool, and so I reached out to Byte, and we arranged to talk on Discord. And then I kind of failed at making that story into a video. Hey, cut me some slack, it's hard to do creative work in a pandemic. However, in retrospect, it was kind of lucky that I dragged my feet for so long, because since then, new information has come to light. And it seems as though the tweet was wrong. Robert Gendler's photo was not the one used in the logo, after all. The plot thickens. So, out of the blue, Captain Byte got a message.
Someone named Dorf Dork contacted me, being like, you should check this out, and he linked me to a website called Sozai Jiten, which in English stands for Material Dictionary.
So this is Sozai Jiten. It's a huge collection of stock images split across a series of CD-ROMs. Each CD has a different selection of photos stored on it. Volume 1 contains various pictures of stone and rock. Volume 5 is full of pictures of the sky and the clouds. There are CDs with flowers, vegetables, spices, and fossils. The list goes on.
The volume of Sozai Jiten that we're interested in is Volume 21, Space and Planets, which came out October 2nd of 1998. So, it was kind of around that time that Nintendo was really heavily relying on third-party images to make up textures in their games. Now, since of course I didn't know this existed at the time, I thought for sure that the Robert Gendler image was the image in the Super Mario Galaxy logo, but over time I would begin to look more and more into Sozai Jiten Volume 21, and I would recognize a lot of images as having been used in Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. And it was around that time that I came across an image in Volume 21 called SV185, and it depicted an image of Andromeda, which, when matched up with the image of Andromeda in Super Mario Galaxy's logo, exact match, matched even more than the image that I had brought up from Robert Gendler.
The origin had finally been found, this time for certain, right? Well, not quite. Unfortunately, things weren't quite explained yet, because the thing is, Sozai Jiten, or the company running it, almost never take photos themselves. Instead, they source pre-existing pictures from all over the world. So, while this picture of the Andromeda Galaxy from the logo, without a doubt came from Sozai Jiten, that's not where the image originated from. Finding out the true origin, that was the last problem to tackle. At first, it seems easy. The description of this image has a little note. It says, sourced from NASA. However, Captain Byte went onto NASA's website and scoured it for any sign of this image. With no luck, the image could not be found. So, if it didn't actually come from NASA, then where did it come from?
It took a lot of searching, and I found a lot of what-ifs and must-bes, but I'm pretty sure I've settled on what I'm almost positive is a conclusive match, and it's an image called The Great Galaxy and Andromeda.
So, this image was originally taken in 1959 at the Palomar Observatory in California, and It definitely looks extremely similar to the picture from the logo, for sure. But of course, that applies to essentially any image of Andromeda Galaxy. So I wanted to prove it to myself. I lined up the two images on top of each other and spent a good 20 minutes rotating them and zooming in and out and adjusting their positions, and eventually I ended up with this. Every single star in these two pictures lines up perfectly. Just to confirm, I pulled up another random image of Andromeda from Google and nothing matched. But these two images, everything matches.
So it seems that the origin of the image comes from 1959 and then was packed into Sozaiji 10 Volume 21 Space and Planets in late 1998.
Wow, that's crazy how far it's... And then, of course, it only turned up in Mario Galaxy in the late 2000s. Wow. It went on a journey.
2007.
Yeah. That's so incredible. Super Mario Galaxy came out in 2007. Just last week, April 2021, the mystery that was sitting on its title screen every time you booted up the game has finally been solved. Now, is there a chance that this might be another Robert Gendler incident? Yes, I think it's important to be clear about the fact that there's no paper trail or direct evidence to prove that the image from the game is indeed from 1959. Lining up the photos myself, they look identical to me, other than some basic colour correction. But there is a chance that someone else, somewhere out there in the world, took a photo that looks almost identical to the picture from 1959. I guess that's what draws me to this one mystery so strongly, though. The fact that we can never definitively prove the origin of this image. But I can tell you that I, for one, am convinced that these two images are the same. As for what you think, well, that's up to you. Hey, thanks for watching. This video would obviously never exist without Captain Byte, so if you're interested in more of his Mario discoveries, you can find him on Twitter at CometMedal. And I am also on Twitter at ThomasGdocs if you want to see what's going on with me. Financial support for these videos comes via patreon.com, and of course, you can subscribe to see more videos like this. Auf Wiedersehen!